Hi, I'm Allie.
And I'm Becki.
We are registered dietitians that are passionate about food as medicine.
In today's video, we are going to be covering the topic of metabolic flexibility, as well as 4 reasons to increase your carb intake and 4 food as medicine boosts that you get from doing so. Let's kick off. What exactly is metabolic flexibility? Let's define this.
Yeah, so when we're talking about metabolic flexibility, we are referring to use of this in the ketogenic diet space. And I've been doing the ketogenic diet clinically for over a decade now, and I see a lot of people can get into a rut. A lot of people can have certain symptoms that are undesirable over extended use of carb restriction. And so we have to be mindful that there's always this N=1 or individualized approach. And ketosis is a metabolic state, not a yes or no food list. We actually talk about this in our low carb chocolate chip cookies recipe when we use real food sweeteners in the recipe, and we state that both Becki and I can eat 1 to 2 of those chocolate chip cookies and still test our blood and be registering ketones. The concept of metabolic flexibility takes into account your muscle mass, your level of activity factor, because as you move your body, you have glucose tissue uptake, so your muscle tissue is going to take up glucose from the bloodstream. We also know that metabolic flexibility can take into account stress. For instance, an individual that is under high stress is going to be pumping out cortisol. Cortisol is a glucocorticoid or a stress hormone that actually drives blood sugar spiking. So for an individual that can regulate or support their stress, that has good muscle tone, is active, they likely have a larger carbohydrate threshold than a standardized ketogenic diet. For individuals that have insulin resistance, increased body fat, they're going to have to keep their carbohydrate, or a sedentary lifestyle to note, they're going to have to keep their carbohydrates a little bit tighter. They're not going to have as much flexibility. So most classic ketogenic diets are going to start at less than 30 grams of carbs a day. We even in our program start most people at that starting point. And then once they get fat adapted or start to produce ketones, we work with all of our clients to explore their metabolic flexibility. And what that means is, how many carbs can you consume while still functioning as a hybrid body, meaning that you're making both ketones and keeping your glucose levels regulated.
And then this is where we get into that dreaded question, right? Like, oh, is this keto?
Oh gosh, yes.
All of that produce can't be keto, or that half a banana in your muffin can't possibly be keto.
Yes, so again, keto is not a yes or no food list. You might start out in this myopic tunnel of the green list of foods, which doesn't include any fruit, doesn't include any starchy vegetables, and gosh, would never have a banana. But again, it's not a yes or no food list. It's your body's metabolism and what keeps you in a ketogenic state. So all of the recipes in the Anti-Anxiety Diet cookbook and our blog can be keto. It depends on your metabolic flexibility.
Yes, and even for ourselves, I think at some point we notice like, hey, we're not buying berries anymore, or we're not putting bananas out on the counter anymore. And it's really nice to be able to expand and experience all these foods. There's also a lot of reasons that we might want to consider metabolic flexibility. So why would we dive into this?
Yeah, so the first one that I like to identify is if you're stressing about celery, which means that you're getting on the path towards disordered eating, where you're getting really neurotic, you're counting all of your grams of carbs, or you're trying to do a net carb calculation. Your body's not a calculator. You are a chemistry experiment. And it really matters that anatomy and physiological influence of, again, your movement, your stress, your hormones, all of these things. So if you're getting stressed about celery and you're leading towards disordered eating, expanding your diet to liberating your carb sum would definitely do you good.
And then if you're dealing with digestive distress, especially on the more slow motility, constipation side of things, I think that liberating your carbs can be really, really helpful because you're getting a lot more fiber when you do so.
And even loose stools, we see individuals, we've talked about in past episodes on how to support your gallbladder. And yes, you can keto without a gallbladder, but fiber does help in that binding and that bile flow, which can be very supportive as well.
Sure.
We see when individuals are getting burned out in their diet, or if they're reaching for those keto products, so like the birthday cake bar, or what I love to call chemical shitstorms, these uber processed products, I'd rather you start with expanding your diet with whole real foods to satiate your cravings.
And then if we're dealing with hormonal imbalance and in particular adrenal dysfunction or adrenal fatigue and thyroid dysfunction, sometimes adding some more carbs can actually be really beneficial for a timestamp, or using carb cycling, which we'll talk about in a future episode a little bit more, to actually regulate your sexual hormones.
Absolutely. I think that's key. And I think the last reason is if you're not getting results, right? So if you've hit a block with your weight loss progress or you're seeing weight gain, potentially expanding your diet with some phyto compounds and antioxidants will support your body better.
All right, so let's break it down to these foods we've got in front of us. So starting with our starchy vegetables. So you may have heard that these are a no-go on keto, and I know I've had people literally police my plate when I post a picture of like pot roast with maybe 2 chunks of one of these carrots. So our starchy vegetables can actually be a really great source of things like vitamin A found in carrots and sweet potatoes, our carotenoid family of nutrients that supports eye health, skin health, and have anti-cancer properties.
Absolutely. So, starting with metabolic flexibility with this type of a choice, you might start with 1 to 2 tablespoons, like you said. So maybe your family's doing sweet potatoes at dinner, sweet potato fries maybe, and you take 4 to 5 sweet potato fries and have more of the majority from a non-starchy vegetable. But even non-starchy vegetables tend to get hit with people that are doing a tight keto approach, and they worry about having too much carbs on their plate. And I think that the other food as medicine focus we want to think about is our detox support and just getting that insoluble fiber. So we're looking at our indole 3 carbanols here from our cruciferous vegetables like our cabbage, our broccoli, cauliflower. We're looking at getting more alliums from our leeks and our shallots and our onions, and not stressing about those carbs adding up, because supporting the liver, aiding in that phase 2 encapsulation detox process is going to give us better health outcomes likely in the long run. And again, you just kind of titrate up your volume based on what your body's threshold is.
And then this one over here might get a little bit scary for people who've been tight keto or a little bit keto brainwashed for a little bit, but y'all know we love real food sweeteners. So that's where, if you're getting into the keto products or looking to make a keto recipe and they're calling for, half a cup of erythritol, we do not want to go there. We talked about that a lot in this video up here about why non-caloric sweeteners suck, and we can actually see the influence on the microbiome of sterility and even potential dysbiosis or bacterial overgrowth with overuse of those sweeteners. And then we also get into that really hyper palatable world of things when we add the non-caloric sweeteners. They're cloyingly sweet, where it just makes your mouth do this. We can't even think about it. Whereas in a metabolically flexible approach, you may be using half to 1 whole banana in a recipe, or maybe you're using a tablespoon or 2 of honey in a recipe that serves, 6 to 8 people. So you're getting this palate reset where you taste a little bit of sweet, but you're more still on that savory side of things.
Right, and actually to boot, supporting the gut with prebiotic fibers with a lot of these foods. And I think one of the issues is when we're so hyper focused on keeping our carbs in that narrow window of 30 grams or less a day, we lose out on a lot of, as you can see, produce. And we know that vitamin C is found abundant in all produce, especially present in berries and citrus. And each of these have their unique antioxidants. We know we have the anthocyanins, the bioflavonoids, which each have their own health supporting influence. We know anthocyanins, very favorable for heart disease prevention, and we know that the bioflavonoids can be very preventative for breast cancer, as well as seasonal allergies, and so much more. So the last thing we want to do is you to cut your health short, or the abundance of the food as medicine available to you based on a diet that isn't specific to your body's potential.
So if exploring the concept of your metabolic flexibility sounds intriguing to you, I think our virtual Food as Medicine ketosis program is a really good place to start. We run this program quarterly, so whenever you're watching this video, there's probably one going or about to start that you can jump in on. And let's maybe riff on some of the benefits that we get from that program.
Yes. Becki and I are both obsessed with the keto high, so we're not letting keto go to the wayside. As much as I believe that the human body is a hybrid requiring both quality sourced animal products and produce, I also believe that the human body is wired to make ketones, and ketones have such a myriad of health supporting influence. So what we do see in our class is we're able to take you from wherever you're starting. Maybe you're eating a standard American diet, a paleo diet, a tight keto carnivore diet. Wherever your starting point is, we're going to be able to work with you to, again, find that individualized place of optimal health. And we've gotten some people who have been out of ketosis but striving to get in, actually successfully making ketones after years of falling off or failing.
And then we've gotten a ton of fantastic feedback that the recipes and meal plans that we provide, you're able to kind of stagger them and titrate the metabolic flexibility for something that works for your whole family. So something the kids can get behind, something you can get your husband on too.
Absolutely. So our program is over a period of 12 weeks. We have 6 every other week class that we offer, and it covers functional medicine deep dive topics, from topics like adrenal fatigue and supporting hypothyroidism to enhancing gut health. We touch on dysbiosis, candida, leaky gut. It's not just about food as medicine keto. We really take things to the next level, addressing things like stress, movement, intermittent fasting, and beyond. So we hope you'll join us in next program. Check the link below and sign up today.
Bye. Okay.